How does Bitcoin work? When most people think about money, they imagine banks somewhere in the background keeping track of everything. Your bank records your balance, approves transfers, and updates accounts whenever money moves. Bitcoin works very differently. There is no central bank managing it, no company approving transactions, and no single computer controlling the system. Instead, Bitcoin runs on a global network of computers that collectively keep track of who owns what. This idea sounded unusual when it was first introduced in 2008. But today Bitcoin has become one of the most discussed technologies in finance. So the natural question is simple. How does Bitcoin actually work? Chapter 1. What Bitcoin actually is. At its core, Bitcoin is a digital currency. Unlike traditional money, it does not exist in physical form. There are no Bitcoin coins stored in vaults or printed on paper. Instead, Bitcoin exists entirely as entries in a digital ledger. This ledger records every transaction that has ever taken place on the network. Anyone can view this ledger because it is publicly shared across thousands of computers around the world. These computers work together to maintain the record of Bitcoin ownership. This shared system is known as the Bitcoin network. Chapter 2. The blockchain ledger. The digital ledger used by Bitcoin is called the blockchain. The blockchain is essentially a long chain of records called blocks. Each block contains a group of recent transactions. When new transactions occur, they are grouped together into a block and added to the chain. Once a block is added, it becomes extremely difficult to change. Every block also contains a reference to the previous block. This creates a continuous chain of records going all the way back to the first Bitcoin transaction. The result is a transparent and tamper-resistant history of transactions. Chapter 3. How Bitcoin transactions work. Let's imagine a simple example. Suppose Alice wants to send Bitcoin to Bob. Alice creates a transaction message stating how much Bitcoin she wants to send and the destination address. This message is broadcast to the Bitcoin network. Computers on the network then verify that Alice actually has enough Bitcoin to send. Once the transaction is confirmed as valid, it waits to be added to the next block. When the block is created and added to the blockchain, the transaction becomes part of the permanent record. Bob's balance is now updated accordingly. Chapter 4. Bitcoin addresses and wallets. Instead of bank accounts, Bitcoin uses addresses. A Bitcoin address is a long string of letters and numbers that identifies where Bitcoin can be sent. People store and manage these addresses using digital wallets. A wallet does not actually store Bitcoin itself. Instead, it stores the cryptographic keys needed to access and authorize transactions. Think of it like a key to a safe rather than the safe itself. As long as you control the key, you control the Bitcoin associated with that address. Chapter 5. Cryptography and security. Bitcoin relies heavily on cryptography to keep transactions secure. Each wallet has two important keys: a public key and a private key. The public key is similar to an account number. You can share it with others so they can send you Bitcoin. The private key is different. It proves ownership of the Bitcoin in that address and allows transactions to be authorized. Because of this, private keys must be kept secure. If someone gains access to your private key, they can move the Bitcoin associated with it. Chapter 6. The role of Bitcoin miners. New blocks are added to the blockchain through a process called mining. Bitcoin miners are computers that compete to solve complex mathematical puzzles. When a miner solves the puzzle, they earn the right to add the next block of transactions to the blockchain. As a reward for this work, the miner receives newly created Bitcoin along with transaction fees. This process serves two purposes. It confirms transactions and it introduces new Bitcoin into the system. Mining also helps secure the network because altering past transactions would require enormous computational power. Chapter 7: Why Bitcoin is Decentralized. One of the key ideas behind Bitcoin is decentralization. Traditional financial systems rely on central authorities such as banks or governments. Bitcoin distributes control across thousands of independent computers. No single organization can modify the ledger on its own. Changes require agreement from the network. This structure makes Bitcoin resistant to censorship and single points of failure. The system continues operating as long as computers around the world are running the software. Chapter 8: The limited supply of Bitcoin. Another unusual feature of Bitcoin is its fixed supply. The total number of Bitcoins that can ever exist is limited to 21 million. New Bitcoin is introduced gradually through the mining process. However, the reward miners receive decreases over time in events called halvings. This gradual reduction slows the rate at which new Bitcoin enters circulation. Eventually, the supply will reach its maximum limit. This scarcity is one reason some people compare Bitcoin to digital gold. Chapter 9: Strengths and Challenges. Bitcoin has several strengths. It allows transactions without traditional banks. It operates globally. And its ledger is transparent and secure. At the same time, the system also faces challenges. Bitcoin transactions can be slower than traditional payment networks. The price can fluctuate significantly. And managing private keys requires careful responsibility from users. Like any financial technology, it comes with both advantages and trade-offs. To wrap up, Bitcoin is a digital currency that operates without a central authority. Transactions are recorded on a public ledger called the blockchain. This ledger is maintained by a decentralized network of computers. Users send Bitcoin using digital wallets and cryptographic keys. Miners verify transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain while earning rewards. The system's decentralized structure and limited supply make it fundamentally different from traditional money. Bitcoin introduced a new way of thinking about money and financial systems. Instead of relying on central institutions, it uses mathematics, cryptography, and distributed networks to maintain trust. Whether someone views it as an investment, a technology experiment, or simply an interesting idea, understanding how it works helps make the concept much less mysterious. This has been a mini Leviathan production. If you enjoyed it, check out our other videos. Comment below what other topics you would like us to cover. See you in the next one.